Hello everyone, welcome to another Gran Turismo 7 Daily Race C video. This one is less a racing strategy guide and a bit more of a thoughts and opinion guide because this week's race is a little bit unusual. We are going to Suzuka International Circuit. We've got 7 laps to get round and we have a selection of Silvia road cars available to race. Now, more on the cars in just a minute. I'll go through the rest of the race settings before we get to that. Tyres available are sport, soft, medium and hard. There's no mandatory rules in terms of tyre selection or pit stops. Tuning or setups are allowed. Damage is light, slipstream is real, and at this point in time I'm not sure whether it's going to be a rolling start or a grid start, but I think a grid start would be quite nice given we're at Suzuka in road cars. Now, this isn't quite my cup of tea. I'm much more comfortable in kind of race cars, but with the modifications, the customization and the tuning, you can turn these cars pretty much into race cars by the time you get them to the track. And again, I'll give PD a little bit of credit on this front because, as I said, not my kind of cup of tea, but it's a little bit of something different. They're kind of using the vast canvas of content that they've got within the game to give us something a little bit quirky, a little bit original, and so you have to give them a little bit of praise on that front. Now, the selectable cars are a selection of Nissan Silvias. There's 7 of them. I won't go through the list, but what you have to be more aware of is that when you do your setup, you have to be under 600 performance points, under 350 brake horsepower, and over 1000 kilograms in terms of weight. So with all those cars available, all the customization options within GT Auto, and all the setup options within the garage, we are going to have a vast array of car setup customization combos to sort of work out what's going to be the best. Now, definitely not my wheelhouse setups or tunes. People will be much better at this than me. There'll be lots of tunes come out over the course of the first couple of days of this one. So if you're worried about getting a setup, then just sort of wait a couple of days and I'm sure there'll be plenty out there on the Tinternet. What I've done for this video in order to conduct a little bit of a test is take the 2002 Nissan Silvia. I've made 3 builds. I've made a sports hard build, a sports medium build and a sports soft build. Now, they're identical in setup in terms of suspension, which is taken from the Nissan Silvia Group 4 car, but they are different in terms of brake horsepower and tyre compound. In order to get anywhere near that 350 brake horsepower cap, I had to use the sports hard tyres. In order to run the sports soft tyres, I had to reduce the power pretty significantly down from 348 brake horsepower down to 271. So the test I wanted to conduct here was to see whether you are got more benefit from the horsepower or do you get more benefit from the tyre compound. Now, I've always been of the opinion, and I think it's kind of what most people think, that Suzuka is a power track with the long straights and a couple of uphill sections. I thought going into this test that having the hard tyres with the more horsepower, 348 brake horsepower in this instance, would be more beneficial than having significantly less horsepower but softer tyres. So 3 laps on the hard tyres here, 2 minutes 20.2 is our benchmark. We could go faster than that, definitely into the 2 minutes 19, but I thought that was enough of a lap time and enough of a kind of indicator to see how we would compare as soon as we put the sports medium tyres on with a little bit less horsepower. So about 40 brake horsepower less. As we cross the start finish line, you see the benefit of that additional horsepower. That's the 348 brake horsepower car shooting off ahead down into turn 1. But as soon as we get to the twisty stuff, that advantage is pretty much eradicated in 2 corners. Such is the benefit of the sports medium tyres over the sports hard tyres. Remember, the cars are identical in every other part of the setup and customization. The only difference between them is the tyre compound and the power. And as we go through the rest of the lap, fast forward all the way to the end, coming out of the last corner, we'll take a look behind us. You can see a significant advantage has been gained by the sports medium tyres despite the less power. So it does look like having that grip around here in this car is more beneficial than horsepower. Let's move on to the sports soft tyres. Again, we've had to reduce the horsepower significantly down, even from the medium build, down from 309 down to 271. Again, as we cross the start finish line, you see the benefit of the additional power of the medium shod car. That's the medium shod car's ghost as we get down towards turn 1. But again, just like the hards versus the mediums, as soon as you get to the twisty stuff, that advantage is completely eradicated. And so, again, very, very similar story. The tyre grip is so significant that we open a gap of around about 8 tenths over the medium shod car. So the one piece of advice I think I can give you I could be wrong though, because again, not my wheelhouse, setup tunes not my wheelhouse, but it does look like you have to go with the sport soft tyres. The advantage in grip is so significant that you need that over the horsepower. So yeah, get the sport soft tyres on and then try and get as much horsepower as you can left with the performance points. That's the only advice I'm going to give you when it comes to setups. As I said, not my wheelhouse, can't stress that enough. A couple of other things I want to discuss about this race. First up is strategy. This will take me about 10 seconds because there is no strategy for this one. Tyre wear at times 1, fuel at times 1, no mandatory rules in terms of pit stops or tyre compounds. There is absolutely no reason for you to be heading into the pits, and that is even the case even if it rains, because I don't think the inters or the wet tyres will be available, because I'm pretty sure the inters would be better than the sports soft tyres. But there is the possibility for some rain in this one. Suzuka is another circuit in which we can get a little bit of inclement weather, and we can no longer say that PD don't use the weather in daily races after last week's Group 4 race at Le Mans. Now, there's a couple of things that maybe point me towards thinking that rain could be a possibility in this one. Obviously, we're at Suzuka, it's a track where rain is available. The second one is that the race is a little bit short given the 7 laps. Now I think people will be doing lap times in kind of 2 minutes 10, 2 minutes 11 fairly quickly. That's going to only make the race around about 16, just over 16 minutes long, which is a little bit short for a daily race C. Usually they get a little bit closer to the 20-minute mark. So a couple of laps in heavy rain would be enough to kind of extend that race distance to maybe towards the 18-minute mark. I don't think if they're going to do it, I don't think it'll be dynamic in terms of randomness. I think it might be like a preset rain pattern to come in maybe halfway through the race, or at the end of the race, or at the beginning of the race. It would be a nice little addition just to make the race that little bit longer and give what's already looking like a fairly interesting week just a little bit more interest in top of it. But yeah, that's pretty much all I've got to say on this one. It's an unusual combination, it's a little bit quirky. As I said, I'll give PD the credit they deserve for giving us something a little bit different. I'm going to try and just make the most of this week. I've done a little bit of driving it in the cars. Once you've got all the kind of race stuff on them, you can make it look nice with a livery. I feel like I'm driving a race car. I'm pretty sure within a couple of days one of the cars will come out as being absolutely dominant. There might be some tricks in terms of the setups that people will do that might just, you know, ruin the race overall. Will there be some engine swaps in there that could possibly ruin the race even further? Remember the mini race at Goodwood, where I think you could put a Honda VTEC into the mini, and anyone that was able to do that had about a 5-second advantage over everybody else. Yeah, that is always the fear when you see a race like this, that, you know, people know all sorts of little tricks and glitches when it comes to setups. In every single racing game, not just Gran Turismo, it tends to be a problem. But as I said, we'll make the most of it that we can. The cars seem okay to drive once you've got them sort of customised up and racified, if you like. And I'll try and use this week to my benefit to try and learn a little bit more about setups and try to just have as much fun as I possibly can. We'll definitely live stream it at least once, maybe twice. Do join me for that if you can. I'd love to see you in the chat. Come and say hello. It's a friendly place. But yeah, hopefully the video's been useful or entertaining in some way, shape or form. If it has been, please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. If you're still at this point in the video, thank you very much for watching. Shall catch you on the next one. Goodbye now.